After your data has run on the GCFID and you want to look at it, you're going to use a separate piece of software called Qualitative Analysis. It opens over there, or really should be open already. Go into there, open up your data file. Again, it should be under your name, under the closeout project, and find the piece of data, the .d file that corresponds to the data you want to open. I'm going to open, I ran a blank for quinine, and then I also ran quinine. So here's the blank. And I'm going to immediately open the quinine. Any data that you're going to show, you want to show the blank for. That's really important. You always have to have a negative control. So here is stacked my blank, my negative control for quinine, my quinine blank, on top of my quinine. And this is really what you want to show, because anytime you show data, you have to demonstrate that it's not contaminated. All right. So the first thing is, when you look at GCFID data, it is going to be way zoomed out, because that first peak at around 2.5 minutes, that is the solvent peak. That is the solvent peak. That's just the solvent that's passing through, and it is off scale. It's out of the dynamic range. It is huge. So we essentially have to kind of ignore that thing and zoom in to see if we actually have real peaks there. And you'll see the dynamic range for GCFID is huge. You can zoom in a lot and still not see noise, but you start zoomed as far out as you can possibly get on the GCFID because of that solvent peak. The way that you drag in this software is you click and drag, but you click and drag with your right. It's a right click. It's an alt click. I'm sort of exaggerating that here by lifting up my left finger. So you right click and drag along the baseline. We're zooming, we're zooming, we're zooming. You will always have to zoom with GCFID. You should never just turn in what shows up on the data. It will be very wrong because it's zoomed so far out. All right, so I zoomed in on the blank. There's nothing much there as far as I can see so far. But the important part is I got to zoom in here on my sample. And I clearly have a peak. The software has already integrated it for me, so it's already got a time label. But I'm going to keep zooming until about here, when it comes mostly of the way up the page. And this is a really good zoom. The baseline is near the bottom. It's most of the way up the page. And when I get a zoom that I like with my sample, I need to make the scale on the blank the same. I have to make the scale on the blank and the scale for the sample roughly the same. I have to compare apples to apples. I can't show a blank that's zoomed all the way out and then zoom way in on my sample and go, look, there was nothing in the blank. It was completely clean. But it's zoomed way out, so you can't actually tell anything at all. So you have to put them on roughly the same scale. So I'm going to come over and just check out what my y-axis is for my sample. And then I'm going to zoom on my blank until I get pretty much the same axis. And then that gives us a fair comparison to look at and go, okay, there's clearly a blank in the sample and the quinine in this case, and there is no peak in the blank that I ran just before the sample. When you've got everything set with the scale, you want to make sure that you have a good number for the peak. We don't need the area or anything, but a nice peak label is good. It should be already integrated. If it's not, you can actually just go and drag across the baseline at the base of the peak, and it should integrate the peak for you and put a nice label on it. Now that we've worked it up in the data like we like it, and we have a good image, everything's on scale, we need to get it off. And one way to do that is the snipping tool in Windows. If you go to that search bar and do snipping tool, we're just going to make an image out of this. You click that plus sign, and you highlight the region that you want to capture as an image because we've worked it up very nicely. We got a good label. We have comparable axes. And then you can just hit save, and it will save this as an image that you can then put into your report. Okay, you're going to save this locally to the hard drive, probably in the folder with your name. And then you need to bring in your USB drive and drag it from there in your USB drive. And then from your USB drive, you can take it and put it on your computer. And then you can embed this image in the report. So work up the data in the software, but then you're essentially going to do a screen clipping is one of the best ways to get the data just like you like it off the computer.